day, when you have that lust for being there first and discovering new talent, you just never leave it. So I think that that is informing what they do now, and it's a very exciting and inspiring. And I find that that same excitement, inspiration goes with Gabriela, because, you know, you'll find out. I promise you, if you don't leave here just wanting to wear something from Gabriela Hearst and just wanting to be her, I have to question it, because she stands for everything that I believe in right now, and that's, fashion that has great style, that is, has a purpose in one's life of looking good and functioning and being able to go from A to Z, but also has a responsibility to our planet, the environment, the people on the planet. And it's a really hard thing to do effortlessly, but she makes it look like it's easy, when really actually it's super, super hard. So to me, this is the new luxury. We're not going to save questions to the end. So if you have questions along the way, let's just get right to it, and let's make the most of the precious time that we have here with Gabriela. So maybe the first thing to start is your background. So it wasn't the usual born in New York City. You were born in Uruguay.
Yeah, it's. I have to say, I grew up in Uruguay in South America, and it's a country between Argentina and Brazil on the coast. And it's very remote, and I grew up in my family's ranch. We were talking earlier about this, so we grew up sustainable, but it was sustainable out of a utilitarian aspect. I'm a sixth-generation rancher, so that really, my family's been there, so the furniture that was there is from my great-grandmother, and everything was built to last. And we had solar panels because they were needed, because there was no grid going there. So sustainability was part of the day of life, but it wasn't something different to what I knew.
So it was sort of like you grew up in a more outdoor environment than an indoor urban environment?
Yeah, that's why I grew up with way more animals than people, and so that's why I live in New York and I love people.
It's interesting because you told me that 50% of your collection are knits. So your farm was sheep and cattle, or just sheep?
It's both sheep and cattle, which is rare. Usually cattle farmers look down to sheep farmers, but my father was like, he loved his sheep, so hence I actually know what to do with wool. So maybe that's part of the why the knits are a good part of our assortment.
So I always think that you kind of have to look back to your childhood. It informs your adulthood. Sometimes we like to change some of the things, but talk about your mom, because I think because you do women's, and just talk a little bit about your mom, because it's fascinating.
Well, my mom is a very special woman that I always said this, if she wouldn't be my mom, she would be my best friend. But when I was growing up, I was like, can I have a normal mom, please? She was competing in rodeo when she was 18, and then in her 30s, she became a taekwondo black belt, second dan, which is like, you don't stop in black belt, you go to that level. So I was like, I don't know, early teenagers and seeing your mother kick. I went to one of her test exams when you pass to the next level, and I saw her like kicking on a side kick and breaking wood on the other side, with the two guys holding, and I was like, this is definitely not normal. I'm like, I am not going to end up out of this being.
Were you embarrassed of your mom?
No, I was kind of like in shock, and then she used to make us do combat. I had to go do taekwondo with her, and she was like, I want to fight with my daughter, and I'm like, oh no. So I saw her do that. She became a Buddhist monk and shaved her head twice, and then in her 50s she decided to do weightlifting and break the record of weightlifting for women over 40, and then she ran horse marathons, and she runs her family farm. That she's the first female actually to run the family farm on her side of the family. And so I grew up with a woman that broke the stereotypes of what women had to be. So in a way, it was a different, very different upbringing. And Uruguay at the time was a very conservative society. There was no globalization. And I was born during the dictatorial period, and democracy came in '84, so everything was very conservative. There was not a lot of options, and here was this radical woman that actually established Zen Buddhism in Uruguay, and having to any cost that, she taught me also about giving. I remember coming from school one day, and there were like trucks and trucks and trucks of these main chain of supermarket bringing food to our garage, and I'm like, Mom, what's this? And she's like, I decided that I wanted to feed the children from this school, and they're going to school and they're not coming to a lot of food, so I just went to the chain supermarket owner, and I'm like, you need to give me food that you don't eat right now. And suddenly trucks were in my home. So she was always thinking of others, and she's a very generous person, and I think that kind of permeated in me. Like, she wasn't teach me. She actually always said, I give because it makes me feel good. Mm-hmm. It wasn't something that she says, you give because it makes you feel good. You don't give to be a good person. You just give because it makes you feel good about it.
Mm. So she was a trailblazer.
Yeah.
Were women sort of conservative in Uruguay?
Yeah.
Were they sort of like not working women? And
yeah, I actually was the first one in my generation to work, because most women would work after college. And my mom sent me to this very preppy British school, and it was like very strict. And I went there all my life, which is a great education, but all the mothers would like pick up the kids in tailleurs and very preppy dress. And here came my mother in her taekwondo tabok, and I was like, oh no, again, I'm the different one.
So she was building your muscle.
Yeah, she was. And I have to say, till I met my husband, that he's like, you need to stop trying to be normal, because you're not. So, yeah.
So when did you decide, or how did you become, how did you go into fashion?
I've always sketched. There was no fashion schools in Uruguay at the time, and I've always sketched. And then I did quinceañera dresses for my friends, which are like, quinceañeras are like the Sweet 16s.
Like the prom.
It's like the Sweet 16, and of course, they tend to be white.
They're very elaborate.
Yeah,
right?
but I would do them short and red. Like, mine was red and short. Like, what's the contrary of white and long? So I would do those, and I would sketch. My mother has all my books with sketches of shoes. But being a designer was not even a possibility. And I went to school for communications, and it was one of those things that chose me. I always was doing trialing and failing, or trying things, and they wouldn't work out, and I would get fired from this and fired from that. And suddenly, when I landed in fashion, I realized I could figure this out and launch my own brand with very little money with 2 other partners. It was called Candela, which still exists, and it was $700, and we started from scratch. And the first image I used was an image of a photograph I have of my mother, that she's on her horse, and the horse is on its 2 legs. And so it's a very impactful photograph. And so that was the first images that we still screened. And so the spirit has always been the same, and then the different permutations as I grow.
So it sort of makes sense about the sustainability aspect of it. It's like, you have high regard for the land and everything. You don't waste. You think about everything from the labor to the materials to the place where it's being made, mm-hmm. which is kind of amazing that your brand holds those components, where so many people are now realizing that they need to change the way that they do things. You're honestly, in my opinion, you're perfectly suited for today, because you've got, it's interesting. You have this sort of style that is quite stylish, but it's also very strong. And I don't want to say masculine, but it's sort of like we were talking earlier. The women, like, who are some of the women that you see wearing your clothes now? That, like Cecilia Richards, who's heads up Planned Parenthood, or Gloria Steinem.
Amazing.
She doesn't probably shop a lot right now, because actually I heard. Oh, sorry. I'm going to divert a little bit, but I heard Gloria Steinem speak, and she, she's so radical in a way, but yet she told an audience of very political women that if you can buy shoes together, you can organize. So she had this sort of reference to fashion. I thought, oh, okay, you get me, that sort of thing. But maybe we should talk about how what are your sustainable principles in terms of making clothes?
So the whole collection, Gabriela Hearst, really came out of a desire for working with beautiful materials and products, and we believe in quality. And so when you support quality, you support passion, because usually when you're buying these materials, there are 3 generation or 2 generation owned mills and the factories that you use, and these are people that have worked in their product over and over again, and for sometimes in multiple generations, so they're good at what they do. So that came from, I wanted to work with the best materials. Obviously, I couldn't do that on a contemporary brand where the demand was to make product cheaper and cheaper, and I had to lower the quality, and my soul was just breaking. I just couldn't do it. And it was very much the moment that we decided to start over, and with a lot of anxiety, but it was a true passion. It took me 2 years to really, from the moment I was conceiving it in my mind to the moment that we jump. But I think it was the right choice, because choosing your passion really direct me to express directly what we wanted to communicate. And so sustainability and it's something that you practice. You do it every day. It's an exercise, because you have to continue perfecting it and perfecting, the road is long, but it's exciting, because every time you find the alternative for that. When it comes to the materials, it's not that difficult when you're working with quality materials. They're always, and when you're working with a great factory.
And natural fabrics that biodegrade, that can come from nature and can go back into nature. And then the process of where things are made, everything is made in Italy, is that?
Sorry, I have a little cough.
She was telling me that earlier that about the factory that things are made in Italy is owned by a woman, which I think is like, well, of course it is, because it's Gabriela Hearst, but I can't imagine that there's that many factories in Italy that are Italian. Italian factory world is such a male-dominated area. So I think that's sort of, there are no accidents. I think that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, and it's great because the owner is called Enza, and her sister Gabriela works there, and her son Marco. And it's a family-run business, and they do for top luxury brands. And you see their space, and you see how the 200 employees work with big windows and their common area to eat, and the product that they make it so proud. Even if I have to talk to them about, I think we have a fit issue in style, and you have to really in the Italian way, each product is their child. So you have to be very careful of not to offend them. And that's true passion to what they do.
It's so important too, because they're, who doesn't want to buy clothes that are made from a passionate family business?
Well, I believe in consciousness. So all the attention that you put in the clothes is going to feel. It's going to feel when you wear it. I believe that if you put that attention to the detail, from the materials to who's making it to whoever is touching your clothes, it's going to feel good at the end.
Well, we talked about this too, that I think a lot of people don't realize that your pores on your skin are actually the place where things can get into your body the most. So if you're wearing fabrics that are coated in chemicals, so it's really, we don't think about it. We think about we don't want to put chemicals in our body, but actually you're putting so many chemicals in your body if you're wearing clothes that aren't naturally dyed.
And your skin is your largest organ, so it's just about thinking we all trained ourselves to choose organic eggs and choose organic milk. It's the same thing about I need other choices to any product that you have right now. We have the sustainable option to that. So it's a matter of like setting yourself in a discovery period that can be exciting, of finding things that are good for you, from your products that you use at your house to the things that you put next to your skin. It's about choices.
So I don't know if you all are kind of thinking about this, but you know, we use the word luxury a lot in talking about clothes that are made well, that may carry a higher price point and may have a fabulous ad campaign or something. But actually, when you think about like good materials, factories that you know, factories that are supporting, in this case, family businesses, and that the labor, you can, it's very transparent. You can see the place that it's made. You can see the people that are making and how they're treated. And then the other thing is your clothes aren't trendy. I just realized that.
Yeah, we're not trendy, but we trend somehow.
But you're in that same category as I mean, not to do brand association, but like Hermes isn't really trendy, but yet it something from Hermes. I always do this like 10-year test. If it was desirable 10 years ago and it's desirable today, it'll probably be desirable in 10 years from now.
It's funny you do that because that's exactly what I do. Like everything I design, I have to look at it because timeless design is a word that's used a lot, but is it really timeless? And
or will it last?
Will it last? That two things exactly. And I do the exactly same test. I want to make things that I designed that you could use 10 years from now and 10 years, ago. So it's really about the way you carry yourself and the attitude. And sometimes that for me is good design is timeless.
Well, it probably going back to your mom.
Yes.
And when you live that kind of lifestyle, you're not living, you don't even talk about trends.
No, there's tradition.
Yes.
And so there's that part of tradition that I grew up, even in my mother was very radical. There's a tradition to the way gauchos dress. And my father was a gaucho, my grandfather and my mother, so they all dress. I'm actually wearing my dad's belt. And you have the brand of your ranch, and there's a way to how you dress and how you do carry yourself. And then I went to a school where you had to wear a uniform all the time. Mm-hmm. So there's a certain tradition to the clothes that we do, and I want to make it simple for women to dress and be, you feel it when you're wearing product that's well made, and you really do feel the materials.
So today's buzzword and the environmental word is circularity. So nothing has an end of life, which I think is super cool. It's very challenging for brands that aren't thinking about that. When I thought you had a really funny answer when I asked you, like, well, would you ever consider somebody bringing back something to you, and then you reusing it and making something new?
Yeah.
And well, I'll say what she said. She said, well, why would anybody want to bring it back? I'm designing for them to keep it forever. So that's actually kind of not a concept that's used in fashion so much. But this is actually, just going back to your mom, is that forward thinking thing. And you're actually setting yourself up for the future. Because I talk to all kinds of brands, and they're just like a lot of them are wringing their hands like they don't know how to do this because it's not the way that they've been brought up or they live or think about. But actually, you've got a best-selling collection. You have a bag that this was the first one, the Nina bag.
Yeah, you were one of the first 25 women to have one.
But you can't, it's not available everywhere. It's hard to get. And like I tried to buy a pair of your shoes the other day and they were sold out. So it's interesting. Like if you're creating something that actually has this kind of energy that people really want.
Well, I think that first distribution is really important because we don't want to be over distributed in a time where there's excess of everything. There's so much excess. So choosing your partners well, like matches, is is a good point. And here we have Michelle, my head of sales, and she can attest to that. It's a great strategy of like just looking to the right partners that can sell your product, because you don't need to be everywhere. You just have to be successful where you are and focus on them. And then with the bag, it was really a strategy that was about doing a bag to complement the look. Now my friend Ben told me like, oh, you should not be wearing other people's bags. So I worked on the bag like, slowly with my own pace, and then we did the first proto, and then all these different things happened, and all of a sudden we have a bag business that is based mainly in 2 styles, but we're the only point of distribution. So that has given me the freedom to next backpack, I'm going to take the time to design it how I want. And then the doctor's bag that we're working now, I can work on it 6 months till I can get it right. I don't have to have the pressure to do a full-on collection. I want to make beautiful things, and we don't have a big team, so we do the things at our not our time.
I mean, I don't know about you in the audience, but I would rather spend more money on something that's going to last me for a long time that I can use a lot, right? Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
Well, when you were talking about being trendy, I think that the word sustainability has kind of been trending amongst a lot of people. But I guess my question is, do you find that the general consumer, if they see that a brand is pushing that angle, that they're more likely to buy something because it's sustainable, or how much do you think that impacts the general consumer in this landscape?
It's for Julie or for me?
Well, I don't know.
Well, so I'll repeat the question so you can tell me if we understand it correctly, that how much does being sustainable impact your reason for buying something?
For me, it's important. When I see that something is sustainable, organic, or that I know that it's with my food or my clothing, that impacts my buying decision. But I guess I'm curious as to how much or how important it is for a brand to kind of push that angle in order to reach that sort of audience or not.
I can tell you that from a personal level, it's extremely important, because the environment is the number one thing that we should be paying attention right now to. So yes, who cares who has the biggest collection of the biggest brand if our environment is suffering? So I really thought about this. Why would I launch a new collection, a new luxury collection? And I thought about, if people are going to choose our product, I really want to make sure that we're doing it with the best way possible. There is no compromise. Sometimes they come up to me, oh, this is a cheaper fabric, but I'm like, yeah, but no, I don't care. It's like we need to give the best product that we can. It's about being transparent and honest, and what is best for the environment. It's very important for me, so it has to be very important for the collection. There's no difference. It has, my name and my husband's name, so it has to be really representative to what we believe, because what's the point?
I mean, I think that you're the best example, because you're not defining yourself as a sustainable brand. And I know that sometimes when you use that word first, it's not everybody's first agenda. People look for style, they look for fashion, they look for community, like they want to buy the brands their friends are buying. And then they also sometimes look at price. What we're striving for, which is really interesting. I was just in Stockholm at H&M, and they just published their new sustainability report, and by the year 2050, which sounds like a long ways away, but by the year 2050, their company is going to be climate positive. So what that means is, it means that even though they're a fashion brand, they're taking on the responsibility of not everything that they're producing from the seed to the hanger will, at the end of the measurement, will be contributing back. So it'll be a good example is it'll just be better. So that's a long-term big goal, but you can see like that is where it's going. I mean, if anything, that company's like have to be on the pulse of the trend. So they're talking about that. So it's interesting. But I think that there are very few brands that can deliver all of those. There's lots of great sustainable brands, but honestly, I even have a hard time because I want the style and I want it to kind of go with my mojo too. So what I try to do, and this is what I would tell you all to do, is buy your things from designers that you know, that you really know, you've read about it, and you can honestly say that, like you've all met Gabriela today, she's the real deal. So just try to buy and look there first, and then buy from people like a Matches, actually, that curate, because sometimes we need curation. Like, you're not going to be able to get your underwear from Gabriela right now. So, but you may be able to get it from Stella McCartney, which is a company that has good values, or you may be able to.
I do get my underwear from Stella McCartney.
And she's working really hard in every aspect of what she does. Or Matches has a jeweler. Monique Pien, she's as responsible as a sustainable jeweler as they come. Or even if you're going to buy a swimsuit, you might buy it from Mara Hoffman, because she's really digging deep into supply chain, and she's not doing some things before because they're not environmentally good. So there's all kinds of ways to do that. And nothing's 100%, by the way. There are very few 100% vetted companies in fashion. Producing is just not a sustainable thing.
But there's ways to producing, because I thought about this and I had to talk to everyone. We're a small company, and I had this idea that for Fall 17, and this is why I want to talk about it, because I would love big companies to be able to do it. So I decided, we work with top materials and top mills, so I went around asking to the top mills, do you have leftover fabrics that you don't use? So it's our job so 30% of our collection is made of overstock fabrics. So I bought this beautiful Loro Piana pink coat that we could only make 10 of them with marble stone buttons, and that's it. It's 10 of them in the world, and that's it. And then another one I could do 50, and another one I could do 100. But if all the large luxury companies, and you can call it limited edition, and you can put it 1 of 50, 1 of 10, and that's luxury. That that not everybody has that, and you're actually cleaning up, because a little bit feels like we need to clean up. Let's use what we have already, because there's so much out there. So if a lot of these brands that have the power, instead of every season deciding, oh my God, I want the new shade of 3 tones down from that blush, it's nearly white, and you custom made it, it's beautiful, and you did it and you custom made it. But I think custom make, we could turn around and use what we have already. So it's a very simple idea. I had to talk to production. We had to talk to sales about it. And everybody was at the beginning, it's like, when is this? It's very simple. It's going to make your life easier because the fabric already exists. You don't need to wait 3 months for the lead time of the fabric. We can even deliver early on this. It's like a process about just utilizing your common sense. I went to Swarovski and I asked them, do you have old crystals that you don't use? And they had no one ask us this question. And they had tons of crystals. They sent us a bunch of crystals they didn't use, and we used them. And you can make beautiful things. It's our responsibility as creatives to come up with ideas. And they don't have to be genius ideas. They can be just small ideas that make sense.
What do you feel, I just was thinking about this, about technology in fashion? Where you have a little bit of that, because like your pockets and your jacket?
Oh, yeah. Well, so my jacket right now that you can buy at Matches, the whole suit, and also the clothes outside. The pockets of all my blazers are lined with a silver. You don't see it. I'll show you, because the original fabric is silver because it's gray, and so you don't see it. It's lined, and here's a silk lining. Navy, but underneath that lining, I use this German fabric that is anti-radiation, because I notice a lot of women put their cell phones in their pockets, and I wanted to protect their organs, their reproductive organs especially, and so It's a bit controversial. You know, they're not going to say that it's happening, but it took 25 years since the moment that they found out that X-rays were bad for pregnant women, and then it was 25 years to change that. So, you know, what the hell? I'll put a little bit of protection and then, you know, prove me wrong. But I just think that I want to give our clients and our women the best we can do, you know, from our point of view. And sometimes it's hard because I'm like, oh my God, like every single detail that we do, the bones, the horn buttons, the da-da-da-da-da, is a lot. But it's so satisfying when you see your product, or when people tell you, I don't know, like they compare you with Hermes, and I'm like, really? Because we really try to, I tell always my team, if they put the light off on whatever store it is, and you need to feel the materials and how soft they are, they're gonna find our rack.
It's interesting because, you know, Hermes to me just is, it's a family business, and they strive for quality. I mean, it's just, you know, it's just the kind of, it's just the principles that you adhere to. You know, so.
They were saddle makers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a bit of like we were, you know,
yeah.
ranchers.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
it transformed.
I forgot what question.
Oh, actually, I want to talk about an idea my husband had, because he used to say, why aren't you using the wool from your ranch in the clothing? I'm like, oh, please, those things do not go together. And, you know, obviously it's your husband, so you're not listening to what he's saying. And after like 3 or 4 tries, he's like, you know, trust me, because he's in media and marketing. And so he's like, trust me, you got to do this. It's like, you think being a gaucho is normal, but it's not. And so we finally talked to Loro Piana, and they decided to buy wool from our farm. And they bought 1,000 kilos, and with that wool, they're making cloth, and we'll have it next month, cloth for doing our suits from the sheep of the farm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I actually end up listening and end up with a really great product.
Well, you recently won the Woolmark Prize, which is such a big deal. I don't know if you all know the Woolmark Prize, but they go all over the world and have people apply for it, and it's a prize for using innovation, which is actually quite a difficult prize, because a lot of our prizes now are just about being new or young or emerging or needy. This is really about innovation. Do you want to talk about some of the things that you did for them, like?
Oh yeah.
That were super
Tell me
cool.
if you want me to shut up.
No.
No, the Woolmark was something that I really wanted to apply, not only obviously because it's a prestigious award, but I knew what I wanted to showcase with wool very clearly, because especially in the American market, people think wool is itchy, and merino wool can be one of the softest yarns and materials that you can put in your body.
I'm going to interrupt, which, by the way, the guy that is in charge of Woolmark, who's what do they call cowboys in Australia?
Jackaroos.
Jackaroos. A real jackaroo.
Yeah,
I mean, like a real dude that's worked on the farm. He was like looking at your sweater and like, I don't know, you know, in their accent, I don't know how that happened, because it was so fine.
Yeah.
And he knew exactly, what was it?
Because I told him it was 14 microns,
Yeah,
and it's super fine. Wool is divided in different measurements, and ultra fine is considered usually at around 17 and 19 microns, but this is ultra fine, and the mill is called Cariaggi, which is like, you know, the top that you can get on quality, and they have this merino that's 14 microns, and it's like beautiful. To be exact, it's 14.4, but it's so beautiful. And what people don't know about wool is that your body regulates, you know, and if it's hot outside, it will keep you cool. But if it's cold, it will keep you warm. It basically transfer the qualities that it gives to the sheep to yourself, because we are mammals, the same as the sheep. So you're inheriting these qualities, and they have it's water absorbent. So I wanted to showcase that a lot of high-performance sports, again, is getting inspiration from my husband, because he's a cyclist. We're transferring back to merino because of you can avoid hypothermia, because it will absorb the water without getting you cold. Cotton will absorb water, but you will get cold. But wool doesn't have. There's so many natural materials, and I was really passionate to showcase, because in Roman times, people in Europe were dressed with 3 materials: linen, leather, and wool. And right now, because after polyester and all the other fabrics, wool is only 1.75% of all yarns used. And I believed intrinsically of the qualities of this material for the future. So, because it has served us so well for thousands of years. I think the first garment was 5,000 years ago, made out of wool. Why not continue using it?
Yeah, and that's where technology comes in, because how you make it is like you can make it really fine, like you were talking about. Do we have any other questions? Just yes.
Worldwide. That's pretty impressive. My question is, how would you advise non-luxury brands to start taking sustainability steps and improving their business models? What would be one thing that you could encourage them to do?
I would say.
We repeat the question.
Sorry, you repeat it.
So what would you say to? Oh gosh,
How would you advise non-luxury businesses to start taking steps towards sustainable practices in their business model?
Non-luxury business, how they can take sustainability practices into their business. Okay.
I would advise, because we were just talking about using existing materials. There's warehouses. I talked to a denim supplier. There's warehouses and warehouses full of leftover denim that it's just dead stock. And I would start with like really researching all available materials that you can do a lot and using them. I would start looking at what's there and go hunting and gathering and then produce with what you have. And there is also this material that we just found out very recently that Mara Hoffman is using. It's a film that looks like plastic. You can do Ziploc plastic. It's an Israeli woman. It's called Tipa. You can go Google it and YouTube it, and it's amazing because it looks like plastic, but it's not plastic. It's completely compostable. It's like a solution to a big problem. And she researched it for 6 years. They're on the market for a year now, and basically when you throw all your tomatoes, your fruit, your vegetables, and you throw the packaging, it will completely compost after 24 weeks. So researching materials like this, this material right now, because it's small and it's just coming, maybe 2 times the price, or 2-3 times the price of what a packaging plastic bag will cost you. But eventually, if a lot of people using, the price will go down. Technologies like this, at the beginning, it's very, very expensive. But then when it gets better and better, it gets cheaper and more accessible to everyone.
I also think that you as consumers, you're so powerful. Talking about the quotient in this, you're the most powerful quotient, because the fashion business doesn't exist unless somebody's actually buying it. So really, it's not fair to put the onus on these people. I mean, we have to, because we have to shout out the people that we think are making our planet and the people on the planet as not positive. So that's a really important thing. But also you have to try to follow that with your actions. And maybe you don't do it all the time. It's really difficult. Like, try not using plastic in a day. It's impossible. It's impossible. And it just, you can't, I don't think you can even go an hour. It's really, I've tried it. It's really hard. But we have to start, just taking small steps. So, for me, I don't buy clothes from people I don't know. I'm lucky because I'm in the fashion business, so I know everybody and know what their back of, their back closets look like. But, we have a gift called Google and then the internet. You can pretty much find out a lot about things and support the ones that are. Like, you can easily do that or question. So, any other questions? Yes. Can you speak up a little bit?
Thanks so much for being here. I've been following you, and I think your clothes are amazing. And I guess just piggybacking on what you're saying here is pretty simple. What steps are you taking to educate the consumer? Because it more responsible as consumers or educating your consumers. I mean, we're in New York. We are kind of here at the cutting edge of everything and claim sustainability and some of these new movements, but that's not everybody.
So it's kind of like we were talking about before, how you don't really talk about sustainability in terms of educating the customer, but you are doing it. So are there ways that you would want to communicate that more?
Yeah, I try to attract the customer with desire, first and foremost.
Mm-hmm.
First comes with desire, and you choose our product, and then you discover what we're trying to do. We could make a bigger effort of how we can communicate, but right now I'm really busy making the product. But we did a fashion show, our first fashion show for February. It was a first fashion show, and the big question was, we're doing a fashion show, why does the environment has to suffer? So everything that it was done in that show was made, like with these beautiful cashmere pillows that were made out of leftovers of our knits, and it was made in a non-for-profit in Uruguay called Manos del Uruguay. That it's a co-op that supports women, and everything about that was or recycled or leftover. Then we even had chairs from my studio and home.
So
and
everyone who sat to
Yeah.
watch the show had a pillow on there.
Yeah, everyone, and they took the pillow home. I remember asking the production person, the owner of the production company, says, "Do you think they're gonna take the pillows? Because I think it's weird people walking out with pillows." And he's like, "Trust me, they're gonna take them." And absolutely, but it was amazing because the biggest surprise I had was that that everything was. We rented things from non-for-profits. We donated the metal on the floor to an art school. And then the backstage, I wasn't expecting, but the production company jumped, and they do big shows for a lot of people, and they jumped on the theme, and they basically, when the whole backstage there was no plastic. It was all the catering was done in these glass jars, and the food was beautiful and organic. And then instead of having like the water bottles they had a gentleman from Harlem making fresh juices for everyone. And then they had these biodegradable cups. So everybody, when the people would come backstage to ask me to interview. I was like, let me show you the catering first. Forget about the clothes. Let's look at this. I was so excited because if people want to find different things, and when big production companies that do big shows for big brands, they feel that they are so tired of the waste, they feel the waste. And for them, this idea was really, really passionate, and you could feel it. And I'm so proud that happened, because then a PR agency had the same catering company. And so if we all kind of copy each other in these things, it's a good thing.
It's also too, this is kind of unusual, that you have a designer that is so got their hands on every single aspect. That's really unusual, especially today. Now we have designers that are sort of overall creative directors, but believe me, they're not thinking about the backstage and the food and they're just kind of art directing, which is great. I love many of them and what they're doing, but it's just rare that there's very few designers that are thinking about every single aspect of it and are involved in every single aspect. Yes?
I had a question about raw materials, especially since you work at a cattle ranch. And for those of us who study sustainability, we know that cotton is one of the most resource-intensive crops in the world. In, for instance, the most water-scarce region in the world. And so what kind of, if we were to scale something like wool production, do you see, would you foresee any problems from, if we were to...
Wool production went down. Actually, the population of sheep, now it's going up again, but there was a steep decline since polyester came, so the population of sheep got reduced, as everything is, it's about demand. So the people were not demanding wool, and they were demanding polyester, so the population of sheep around the world declined to 1/3. And so I think that the wool could support and also there's a much more lasting effect to wool than to cotton. It will last much longer. I think that again, it has to be farmed in a conscious way, obviously. And this is what I love about sheep. You can breed them in very arid grounds. So even if you don't have northern Africa, that's where they initially come, a very arid, they eat very close to the ground. So they'll eat roots and grass because of the type of teeth that they have. So you can practically, if there's a drought, you can put sheep, in really harsh environments, and they'll survive.
That's a really, really good question. And probably technology is going to fund that, replace that, because really, if we're talking about sustainability, we have to talk about agriculture and land use.
Yeah.
And the less land we use, or the less, if you're using land, how it regenerates itself, the better. And cotton just is not a regenerative type of resource. But there's a lot of, just to answer your question, there's a lot of hope, because technology is sort of driving that kind of thing, like let's think of a new idea and let's do it. So it's really that is sort of like, it's like the gold rush in a way. And I think that there's going to be a lot of things that, how you take existing materials and redo them and create new materials, and it's fascinating. But it's a good question. But I think we're almost through. But thank you thank you all for being so inspiring. Thanks for coming about a topic of sustainability. But of course, sustainability and good designer is a great designer is the most seductive thing, I think. And thank you for matches too, because again, they do have that DNA of being on the forefront of not just new talent, but also new ideas. So, I'm personally a follower. So, I'm devoted. I mean, actually, I'm just like thinking, okay, when are you going to do lifestyle, like home? I want my pillows, I want my bedspread.
We're doing it for our
I want my
country.
food. So I think this is kind of something that's going to happen. We're going to have these people that are just, they do it right. So to your point, you're going to curate yourself, and so I personally think that we have dark days right now a little bit, but I think the future is really bright.
Yeah.
So
I mean, as awful as we can be as a species, we are also quite extraordinary. So I have hope too. I really do hope that we evolve. We have always been evolving, so we really do hope that we can turn and evolve on the right way. But I do want to thank you so much, and Matches, for giving us the opportunity to talk about something that we're so passionate, because it's not something that you can really communicate as much. And this was a great platform, and I'm so thankful to everybody that came and listened.